Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you are in the world. I hope this finds you well. Caspa has been closing some daily candles, which is nice to see above the 20 and 21 week moving averages. So that is a good sign. It has broken out above this parallel channel. It is clearing these moving averages. So for me, things look even more optimistic now. The lowest risk time, in my opinion, to buy Caspa was when it was below the 20 and 21 week moving averages, because in a bull trend, these moving averages typically act as support on many assets. You can go and check to see that is often the case. And so when the price is below that, often it's lower risk. The odds are in your favor. So it's nice to see that Caspa has in fact popped back up. We'll see if it can turn these into support. Where they end up, where price ends up back testing these moving averages as it did here. We don't know. It could move higher before it comes back down. For example, like it could either just come right back down. It's hard to know exactly how it's going to play out, but it's kind of like when it happens, you see it, right? Obviously, we wouldn't want to see price falling through again and then it turning to resistance again. I think right now, because the price has tested it so many times and it's setting higher lows and higher highs, maybe there's a little bit more confidence that the trend is shifting to the upside. Another indication of that would be the Heiken Ashi chart on the weekly time frame, which is really amazing for spotting trends, like high time frame trends. You can see when price flips green, we get quite a few green weeks following that. So not always. Sometimes, like for example, this accumulation range flipped green, but it was more or less sideways. This phase obviously is similar to this. So when you do start seeing green, though, it is on the weekly. Nonetheless, it is positive, and it can potentially lead to many green weeks. And I think that the cycles are getting a little less volatile as Caspa is increasing in market cap. So it takes more money to move it, which results in less volatility, smaller dips and potentially diminishing returns. We'll see. Although this phase right here to me looks like a beautiful accumulation range that could provide a really nice base for the next breakout, and it potentially could be a big move to the upside, instead of like kind of a smaller mini cycle or a mini pump. This one could be like a pretty major pump potentially. And then timing wise, if we just translate this over, starting with this peak and this peak, you can see that the timing has been similar. We had this let's see, how can we mark this here? We had this peak right here, and then we had this peak right here. And price has been sideways, dipping below the peak, up above and over. So we had this peak, we're dipping below, and then timing wise, potentially it repeats, where by, let's say, June, sometime mid-June, it is breaking out to new highs, just as what happened here. We can see that maybe a little more clearly on the standard candles. So by the end of this block here, it was beginning to break out to new highs. So if we go over to roughly June 10th, perhaps it is also beginning to break higher, at least over this last high, maybe above this smiley face high. And potentially we can continue the ascent to perhaps, we'll see, 50 cents. That's what I'm hoping for. If we go to Bitcoin, just to see why the markets are dumping today, I don't know if there's any news. I haven't looked, but what I can tell you in the charts is that Bitcoin just smacked right against this midline, which was a little bit higher than the top of this channel. So it poked above that, smacked in the, or this parallel channel, it smacked above this descending parallel channel into the midline of this ascending channel, and it's dropping. Gold, interestingly enough, is also at the 1.618 of this big cup and handle. I'm not sure what kind of effect gold hitting that is going to have on everything else. I don't know. Gold could potentially continue up. It could fall into maybe some descending channel or bull flag or something, and then just continue higher. It could be peaked. Who knows? But what I'm wondering is if gold hitting the 1.618, people might de-risk there and have taken that money and just put it into assets that are further out on the risk curve, like Bitcoin, Caspa, crypto in general. The S&P 500 as well is interestingly enough hitting the 1.618 when it is drawn. Let's see. When it is drawn on this high and this low. So that is interesting as well. And we'll see what happens from there. We'll see if it needs to go sideways and accumulate longer. Maybe we do get a bit of a summer lull. Maybe we get some sideways price action for a bit, and then price continues higher in 2025. And maybe not expect much over the summer, or maybe it just continues to push higher. Like, time will tell. But we are at some interesting levels. So that's worth noting. If we draw the Fibonacci this way, the S&P 500 has not yet hit its 1.618. So we could possibly see continuation if that's in play. And then gold, if we draw it a different way, we draw it this way, 1.618 could be 2,700. So all is fair game. It just comes down to what the majority of traders are using and what they're looking at and where they are buying and selling. So it's good to have all of the levels in your head and find confluence. So near term, though, for Caspa, my opinion is that it is undervalued and that it has broken out of some zones that have been resistance, and any back tests potentially could be short-lived. Like, if we do stuff like this, it could provide fuel for the next leg higher. We're just really just mimicking the last accumulation phase in terms of timing. Once Caspa breaks out above this peak, it basically, to me, will be resembling the price action in this zone right here. So we had this divergence a little higher, similar to this one, came back down. So once it's all a little bit more drawn, it just looks a little different, the way, the order of things, but otherwise it's very similar. And once it breaks out above, if this can provide support up in here, then we could start looking something like this, and price could just kind of begin moving higher on a larger pump. So we'll see. I'm optimistic. Obviously, this is just my opinion, not financial advice. I'm very bullish on Caspa, obviously, and I think that cycle peak, if Bitcoin can kind of continue up to some higher Fibonacci levels, Caspa can get to potentially as high as somewhere between $1 and $5. It's hard to know. I think 50 cents is conservative. That's more so just a target for the next swing. But ultimately, cycle peak not financial advice. I'm looking for $1 to $5, and I have a strategy just reflecting that, and you know, so that's how I'm playing it. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. How high do you think Caspa can get? You know, what do you think the future has in store for Caspa as far as prices, fundamentals? Are you excited about smart contracts coming? Are you into DeFi? Do you think that Caspa is superior to Bitcoin? What do you guys think? And then if you have any other comments as far as technical analysis, anything you wanted to see more, feel free to drop a comment in the description below. And also, if you want to do a collaboration with me and do some have some conversations recorded, put up here on YouTube, feel free to send me a DM on YouTube, on Twitter, or drop a comment. And I'd love to have more open conversations on YouTube, which I think are going to be really interesting and useful for people to learn about Caspa and price action and all that. Just get some different perspectives.